Ludington Mariners in 1921 had a banner team and a banner season. They excelled in every dimension of the game. They had a team batting average of over 300. They led the league in home runs. They had the best pitching staff. They had the best fielding team, and they stole the most bases. To illustrate how they could run in one inning in one game, they stole 4 bases. The manager of the Grand Rapids team in the league said, "I would trade my whole squad for 2 or 3 of those stars on the Mariners." In early August of that year, the Mariners, and that would be the Ludington Baseball Association, sold Clarence Brown, a star pitcher, to the Brooklyn Robins. They weren't called the Dodgers then, they were the Brooklyn Rogers. And they sold 4 other players to the Boston Red Sox. Here's a team picture of the 1921 champion Ludington Mariners, and you see there's a lot of players. This photo was taken during spring training, and the league had a restriction that you could only have 15 players on your roster. And the manager, Jim Sharp, played third base on this time. Hall of Fame manager and a venerable baseball personality named Connie Mack said that pitching is 85% of the game. And that must have been partially true about these Mariners because they had 3 20-game winners. This next photo is out of my collection, and I really like it because it shows the pitching staff. If you look to the far left, you'll see Oscar Johnson, 20-game winner. You look to the far right, and there stands Bill Shoop, a 20-game winner, and next to him is Clarence Brown, another 20-game winner. Well, because the Mariners won the Central League and the London, Ontario Tecumsehs won the Michigan-Ontario game, they decided to play a little World Series or a postseason series. This was a really big deal for Ludington. And the night before they left for Canada, the city had a wonderful banquet at the Stearns Hotel. And the next morning they got on the train and headed to Canada. And to accentuate how important this was, the publisher of the newspaper, a man named Sutherland, went along to write the game accounts of every contest. Well, they played the first 3 games in Ontario. The Tecumsehs won the first 2 games and Ludington won the 3rd game. And then Ludington returned back home. And when they got to the depot, there was a crowd of people to welcome them and the local band. Now let's take a look at the ballparks they played in. We'll start with the home field for the Mariners, which was called Culver Park. And in this panoramic picture that we're showing you, it's game action. And you get a feel for where the ballpark was located, down at the waterfront. You can see a structure that's dark. In the left, that's the big grain elevator that thousands of bushels of grain were put in and were hauled across Lake Michigan to markets by the PM car ferries. And then you can see that the ballpark was close to PM Lake, and you can see a car ferry there. So if you really hit a long home run, it might end up in PM Lake. And here's another picture taken from a different perspective. You're looking over the left field fence toward the grandstand. You can see a full-blown grandstand with bleachers going down both the right field and left field line, a palisade fence around it, and dugouts. This was a special ballpark where the Mariners would play their home games and play the 4th game of the series with the Tecumsehs. And in that game, there were 3,041 fans that attended that first home game in the postseason in a ballpark that only could allow seating for 2,000. So a whole lot of folks were standing up. They won that game, so they went up 3-2 in the series, which was the high water mark. And the next day, they lost to Tecumseh. But there was an agreement before the series began that you had to win 5 games to be the champion. And there was also agreement that after you got to this point, then you had to play on a neutral field. And both teams then went to Grand Rapids and played at Ramona Athletic Park in that city. And the Tecumsehs prevailed, winning the last 2 games. Despite losing this post-series, History records that the 1921 Ludington Mariners were the finest team that Ludington ever fielded in its 7-year minor league history. Now I want to show you a picture of an actual program from the 1921 season. And I want you to focus on the cover because you'll see that J.B. Smith is the president of the Ludington Mariners. And J.B. Smith was a businessman. He had a billiard parlor in downtown Ludington, and that's where you had to go to buy tickets to go to the games. And many of you have been in the same building. It's now called the Sportsman's Bar and Restaurant. And then look down further in the list of the board of directors, and you'll see somebody that's named K.L. Ashbecker. Well, he was the first person to establish a radio station. And the way the call letters for radio stations were, if you were in the western half, the first call letter was a K. If you were in the eastern half of the United States, which Ludington was, it started with a W. So think of W.K.L. Ashbecker A, WKLA radio. The home field for the London, Ontario Tecumsehs is in London, Ontario, Canada. And this is a picture of the ball field. It's a modern day photo, but it's the same diamond in the same outfield that the Mariners played in the postseason in 1921. And then ironically in the 1880s, the Detroit Tigers had their Double-A team playing on this same field. The 1921 Ludington Mariners championship team. If genies were real and one rang my front doorbell, and upon opening it said, "Bill Anderson, we know you love baseball, and I am here to tell you that you are going to be sent back in time and watch 3 professional baseball games. Tell me which games you want to attend." I would include watching the 1921 Ludington Mariners defeat the London Tecumsehs 4-3 on September 25 at Culver Park in their postseason championship series. Ludington had won the Central League with the second-place Kalamazoo team way back 17 games in the standing. The Mariners excelled in every aspect of performance. Pitching is such a critical part of a competitive team, and the Mariners were stacked with 320-game winners, with only one other hurler reaching that level of performance in the whole league. Bill Shope won 25 games. Oscar Johnson and Clarence Brown both won 22. On August 22nd, Shope pitched 2 complete games, winning both ends of a doubleheader. 3 days later, Brown duplicated the Iron Man performance by going the distance twice, notching 2 victories and another doubleheader. On August 28th, Clarence Brown pitched a no-hitter against Grand Rapids, allowing only 1 runner to first, and that was on an error. In closing this virtual celebration of our new inductees into the Mason County Sports Hall of Fame and our High School Athletes of the Year, we thank you for joining us remotely in the comfort of your homes and sharing this important time and memory together.